A stalwart of the People's Democratic Party in Lagos, Babatunde Gbadamosi, has defected to the Labour Party and declared support for its presidential candidate, Peter Obi. Gbadamosi, a former governorship candidate of the African Democratic Party and a former Lagos East senatorial candidate of the PDP, made this known in a statement in Lagos. He said that he was motivated that almost all youth who were not professional politicians or influencers for hire had been popularizing Obi's presidential ambition. He added that Obi had shown over the years, shown himself to be a creative, prudent, and frugal administrator, as well as the trustworthy custodian of public funds. Gbadamosi also described the Labour Party's vice presidential candidate as urbane, prudent, practical, and principled as a politician. Babatunde Gbadamosi joins us now to speak on his defection from the PDP, his interest in the Labour Party candidate Peter Obi, and his political ambition, if he's nurturing any at the moment. Good afternoon, Mr. Gbadamosi. Thank you for joining us this afternoon on Newsday.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me.
With the recent announcement of your defection, I have to ask why? Why the timing? The timing of the defection, any significance to it?
There is no, I attach no particular significance to the time I announced my defection. I mean, I'd been disillusioned with the goings-on in the PDP, Lagos especially, and to some extent at the national level also, for quite a while now. And, issues like substituting names of duly elected delegates at ward congresses, at local government congresses, at state congresses, and so on like that. Substituting names of candidates that have duly emerged at primaries for various positions. I mean, the evidence of my statement is at the Lagos Federal High Court, where there are multiple cases. I think maybe about 30 different cases surrounding that issue. It's all a bit messy, and I'd rather not be part of that mess. The most important thing for Lagosians now is to be free of certain shackles that have been on our necks for the last 23 years. Now, the last time we witnessed any measure of progress in Lagos was during the Jakonde period. The last time we witnessed any measure of progress in Nigeria, at least a part of Nigeria, in Western Nigeria, was during the Awolowo administration of the pre-independence period, self-rule, I think it was called at the time, where we saw a lot of industrialization. We saw a free education program that was spread throughout the Southwest, what is now called the Southwest. We saw exponential growth in general progress across the country. All sorts of indices, we just kept going up and up and up. And it only all started falling apart, I think, from about 1962, when certain elements decided to interfere in the internal governance of Western Nigeria. And that portended very bad omens for the Federation of Nigeria as a whole. We need to get back to what Awolowo and co were doing back then. And the closest candidate that I can find that seems to be able to pull that off based on his personal record is, without a shadow of a doubt, Peter Obi. There is no time. There is no time, especially with the quagmire that Nigeria finds itself in now, the needless mountain of debt that we're sitting on, the insecurity, the divisions, the ethnic divisions, the religious divisions, all these things combine to make for an emergency situation. Undeclared, yes it is, but it is an emergency, whether we like it or not.
All right, Mr. Gbadamosi, let me ask similar questions. First of all, you're being quoted as saying, I no get shishi. Of course, in local parlance, that means that you do not have one. But I do not believe that statement because Of course, as a real estate developer, I've seen you in choice cars. So you say that, I don't know where that is coming from. Maybe you can explain further. But you've also mentioned that having contested in back-to-back elections in 2019 and 2020, that you are tapped out. And talk to us about the whole political sphere and how cumbersome it is and how money sapping it is running for office in Nigeria.
Well, I have to say that the Nigerian constitution, as it were, clearly borrows heavily from the American presidential model. However, unfortunately, it doesn't take all of it. It takes only a little of it and then superimposes all sorts of Nigerianisms that have made that constitution completely and utterly unworkable. Now, that has led us to a point where politics has become a cash guzzler. And if we're going to go the American way, we might as well go the whole hog. We should have situations where candidates are actually sponsored and funded by the electorate, by supporters, and so on and so forth, rather than have a situation where a few extremely wealthy individuals who have become so wealthy because they somehow managed to corner state resources and have used the same state resources to protect themselves from prosecution. These people stay on top of the political game by spending public funds for their own personal ambitions. And anybody coming in from the outside simply cannot compete against these people because of the immense resources they command and because of the extent that they wouldn't mind going to hold on to power. Now, that leaves us with a very serious conundrum because we keep saying we need to get out of this mess that we're in, but the people who orchestrated the mess in the first place are the most powerful people and the wealthiest people, literally, to all intents and purposes, in the land. The only way that they can be confronted is for everybody who feels concerned to put in as little as they can, as much as they can, into the campaign of anybody with whom they're pleased, with whom they're happy. And I'm happy to see that that's now actually happening with Peter Obi for the first time in Nigerian history. It's never happened before. And in my case, yes, I contested elections on the platform of a small, hitherto unknown party. It had just been registered, I think, barely a year before, I kind of got conscripted into that party, almost by accident. And found myself running for governor all of a sudden. And then I returned to the PDP, having sort of come out of early political retirement. And again, fortuitously, unfortunately, the man representing the Lagos East Senatorial District, passed on. And his seat became vacant as a result. And members of, senior members of the PDP kind of persuaded me to take that spot and contest the elections, only for me to find that on election day, through no particular fault of theirs, I'm not talking of these leaders, I'm talking now about party officials of the PDP on election day simply turned their backs on me, the candidate. I'd never seen that type of thing before. And that was one of the things I thought about when I said, no, I'm not sure I want to be part of this because, even if we were to gather around the PDP candidates, what will the party officials do? Will they do the same thing again that they did to me in 2020? I don't want to be a part of that. Peter Obi was also a member of PDP, and he saw certain things. And I'm led to believe that some of the things that I'd been worrying about for years, he saw and made the decision that, no, I'm not going to be a part of this charade. I will move. Okay? And having given it serious thought, I thought, you know what? Let's get on this boat and row it and see whether we can use it to take Nigeria to where we want it to be.
Now, I'd like to follow up on something you said. You said you were conscripted almost by accident to join the African Democratic Party, where you ran for
Yes.
governor. And you also said that you were persuaded, to go for the Lagos East senatorial candidate of the PDP, which makes me wonder if you're actually in politics by accident, or is it due to a personal ambition or a sincere desire to serve the people, and in what capacity?
For 17 years, I lived in the UK, 17 years of my adult life. And in all that time, I don't think I ever saw a pile of refuse the way we see piles of refuse on the streets. I never, ever saw a dead body on the street. There was never a time when there was no running water in the taps. And I never saw a borehole. I also never had the sound of a generator. In fact, the first time I came across a generator in the UK was when we were doing up our office on Deptford High Street, 2222 Deptford High Street. We were, renovating it, ready to turn it into an office space. It used to be a shop at the time. That was the first time in the UK that I had to use a generator because, of course, it was a building site. Coming back to Nigeria in 2003, it wasn't so much of a shock, but I still felt badly enough that we're still here. Exactly how I left Nigeria in 1990. On January 21st, 1990, that's when I left. And it's still pretty much the same. No water running from the taps, no electricity, piles of refuse everywhere, dead bodies every now and again on the street, armed robberies, area boys. It's such a shame that we're still here. Came back in 2003. This is now 2022, 19 years later. And things are still the same, pretty much, if not even worse, because Lagos is now more crowded. There are more homeless. There's a very, very serious homelessness problem in Lagos that the authorities are, for whatever reason, turning a blind eye to. There's a very serious transportation problem in Lagos. The other time, during the 2019 gubernatorial debate, I asserted that people were spending up to 6 hours in traffic a day. I was corrected a day later by, I think it was Budget, that corrected me and said they fact-checked what I said, and they said it was wrong, that it was in fact 7 hours a day. So you can't see all that, and knowing what I know directly from one of the actors of the 1950s and 1960s, my grandfather, and just sit back, it's just not possible. I can't. We have to move forward. We have to get ahead. We used to be ahead of Singapore. We're not fit to wipe their shoes anymore.
Well,
That's my motivation.
Mr. Gbadamosi, you said quite a bit. Knowing that we have such issues in the country, I mean, you've mentioned a few, but then you didn't add the insecurity, the issues with education and healthcare.
That's a topic for a whole other day.
Exactly. I'm just trying to buttress the fact that whoever gets into power come February 2023 has a lot on their plate. It has to be someone who is not only organized, but someone has the stomach to deal with all that will come their way, knowing that the troubles that we face are quite high and seemingly insurmountable. Now, you have pitched your tent with the Labour Party and are definitely giving Peter Obi your full thumbs up. That is clear. Do you think he is the person that will be able to clear this up come February 2023? Or is it even a matter of, can we solve these issues? Is it solvable in the next 4 years? Or is the next person that comes in just going to inherit a lot of mess that will just be kicked down the road and will hopefully be solved by the further administration? How do you go about solving this mess that we're in? And is Peter Obi the guy to do so? Your thoughts?
I am in complete alignment with the views of Ayo Adebanjo and many others of the Afenifere group, who said that, Igbo Lokon, that given the support that the East gave Obasanjo in 1999, Abiola back then in 1993, that it's our turn as the honorable people that we are, Yorubas, to support an Igbo candidate. But fortuitously and fortunately enough for all of us, the one Igbo candidate that has come to prominence happens to be Peter Obi. In my opinion, he also happens to be the best candidate out there right now. Of all the major candidates that are on the ballot now, Peter Obi is the standout draft as far as I'm concerned. That's the closest we've ever had in terms of principles, in terms of our approach to government funding, for government funds, public funds, in terms of his belief in education, in terms of his prudence. I think that's the closest person we've had in a long time to Obafemi Awolowo. And for that reason, I think that he can do the job. I also believe that because of the preponderance of young people that are supporting him, I think that there is a national will to change things. And that is key. It's one thing to be a great administrator, a prudent manager of resources. It's another thing to have the support that you need to achieve the kind of changes that you want to achieve. And I think that with Peter Obi, that support is already there and it keeps growing every day. I mean, the quantum of support that he seems to be getting from northern Nigeria is just amazing. I can't get over it, but it's there.
All right, I want to say many thanks to you, Mr. Babatunde Gbadamosi of the Labour Party, for joining us here.